Po- Podcast 82. Start us up.
82, 82, and we're both grumpy. It's
Yeah,
hot,
we're both grumpy today.
humid, and we're overworked.
Overworked,
Too many people want our time
overworked, and overtaxed,
and unvaxxed.
and unvaxxed. Yeah. Podcast 82.
What do you
We
want
had
to do?
we had an interesting comment here that probably started a little drama, but
Yeah.
oh oh um
Did you poop?
so we won't mention names on this because it's kind of a bitter topic, but um somebody had messaged you and they sent me a message. I didn't see it because it went to my message request folder. So
Oh,
I responded to him, I guess days later. He
oh,
said he had already messaged you too, and because I didn't respond, and he wanted both both people's opinions. And when I responded, he said, "Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing Chris said."
right.
So then I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but I had a comment on YouTube about the same thing.
Oh,
So, and I have seen this in the past, it keeps popping up.
hot
So,
topic, huh?
yeah, so I figured we'd do a podcast about it. And it's related to hunting, but it's not necessarily a strategy video or nothing like that. But it's basically having, friends or family wanting slash expecting to hunt your, private hunting land.
Yeah.
And what do you do about it? How do you keep it civil, between family members? Because hunting can hunting can cause a lot of drama between family, and
Oh boy.
I've seen it. It's happened to me.
Yeah, it's happened to
Um,
me.
yep. So I'm sure you got some stories, and I got tons of stories I can give
Yeah.
examples about, and what I've learned now.
Right.
What
Right.
I just turned 40. I've been hunting for 26 years, so I have a lot of stories to tell and a lot of things that I've learned, and some things I don't care about. So why don't we start it up with that? And I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people, a lot of hunters. You always have that guy that calls you. He doesn't talk to you, and then he calls you a week before hunting season. You know,
Right.
wanting to know where you're hunting at, if they can hunt together, and it's annoying. It's really annoying. But
Hmm.
let's talk about it and get
Yeah.
you fired up because you're already grumpy.
Well, I am because like this does hit home with me because I had a good hunting partner for years, and uh,
Can you describe that situation? Because I remember it.
yeah, I'll tell you what it was. Is there was my buddy's place, and there was a chunk of land between it and another guy's place, and those two guys were friends, and so they would gather in the middle, which was somebody else's property. Now they had permission to be there. Okay. Um, and so it seemed like this place was a hot spot because my buddy's place was agriculture and all the bedding was down below on the other guy's property. And they would work their way up hill and come up to the agriculture before dark. And it seemed like they was always seeing some nice critters or, some a good bit of critters. And they always kept people out of that property. Like they had their own little domain, if you will. They would get in there and hunt that, and it was off limits to anybody. Like he would let people come and hunt his land, my buddy, and he would never turn anybody away. But his stipulation was like, you can't go down there. And why? It's not even his property. So what eventually happened was he had another guy come in, and I guess what really happened was he wasn't having any luck on my buddy's land, so he took a walk on the edge of that property and ended up shooting a pretty nice buck. And it was down on that other guy's property, which they didn't want anybody down in there. So It was kind of like their own little honey hole, and that didn't go over real well. They was upset with them, and this, that, and the other, and so fast forwarded a couple more years when my boy started hunting. Um, we were having a hard time putting a set of antlers in front of him. He was just seeing a bunch of doe, and he wanted to get his first buck. And my buddy had a tree stand set up down there on that patch that I'm talking about. It's like, I don't know, it's only like 10 or 15 acres or something, but it's a nice little transition zone. And he says to me, "Well, you know, I've got that tree stand down there. Why don't you take your boy down there?" Well, didn't we go down there the first night? My boy shoots his first buck. It was a spike, real tall spike. He didn't care. He just wanted to shoot a buck.
Mhm.
So, everybody was happy. Congratulations all around, blah, blah, blah. And what ended up happening was when the next year come around, I tried to talk to my buddy about that land. And in the meantime, I called the landowner and asked if he would allow anybody to hunt there. And he said, well, he already lets these two guys hunt there and anybody that else would ask. And so I asked permission to be in there, and he gave me permission and sent it to me in a text and everything. So I had proof of it, in case anybody would ask me what I was doing on this property. So anyhow, I go down there, and there was a lack of communications, what it was. And part of it was my fault, I have to admit. But what had happened was I tried to ask my buddy if he was going to hunt down there. He him hauled around, didn't give me a straight answer. So when the season came around, the weekend of the season, like when it used to come in on a Monday, I told my boy, I said, well, if we go over there on a Saturday night and nobody has any tree stands up, we'll put a tree stand up for you. And so what we did was we went in, there was no stands around, so we put up a tree stand. And it was in the same area that my buddy had his stand there in years past, because they had nice shooting lanes cut and stuff. And what we did on his property was he would put up a ladder stand, a couple of them on his property, and then pretty much you draw the short straw or whatever, and you guys would go out and hunt these stands that he set up. Well, so I had the same thought in mind. We would hunt this stand first thing in the morning, and I would just leave it there, and whoever else wanted to use it could use it if they'd like. Well, me and the boy showed up there first Monday morning, opener a buck, got there, and my stand was gone. They came in last minute Sunday night and wanted to put their stand up, saw mine there. I'm pretty sure they knew whose it was, but anyhow, they took it down, folded it up, and they did a nice job. They took it down nicely and folded it all up and wrapped it up real nice. And he took
Or
it
at
up.
least at least they took it down in a nice way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did take it down in a nice way. He didn't, screw it up or anything. And he took it up to the house, and I got there in the morning, and I called him, and I'm like, "Hey man, where you at?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm up the house getting ready to go hunting." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm down here on such and such a land, and I had a stand up, and it's gone." Well, right away it turned into a big argument, and he cussed me out, you know, and accused me of trying to steal his spot and all this stuff. And I'm like, whatever. So we went up the house, got the stand, went somewhere else. Well, that did kind of ruin the whole hunting relationship there, because I told him, the only reason why I used to come over here was for the camaraderie of it all. We hunted together, we would do things together. And I said, we had permission to hunt those all those pieces of property that were adjoined there. And I had written permission now as well. And so I take partial blame for that. Although there was a lack of communication, because I did ask him if he was going to be in there and he didn't answer me. And so I did go in and put up a stand, and they came in after me and wanted to put up a stand. And so they took mine down, put theirs up, and whatever. So we still remained friends, but I told him, I said, I'm not going to fight over hunting spots. I can go anywhere. And to be honest, I've shot a couple little deer over at his property and things in the past, but when I got out of there and started really having now to look for good places to hunt,
Mhm.
my hunting exploded. I started shooting big bucks and things, because I guess I was just in it for the camaraderie back then, and I just wanted to hang out with these couple of guys and hunt, and we never shot anything, so it never worked out for us, and yeah, I guess the moral of the story is, yeah, I didn't need to be there. I had ample opportunity elsewhere on public land, and that's where I shot these big bucks at. I mean, that one behind me there, that was a public land deer, you know, like a year or two after I left that guy's property and didn't go over there anymore,
Mhm.
you know. So putting in the hard work actually worked out for me instead of taking the easy route and going to my buddy's place. And I mean, that's my story, but getting back to the subject at hand, we're talking about, you know, hunting on other people's property and things, and people that put in the work, and then you call them a week or two before the season and say, "Hey, man, let's get together and hunt." That ain't cool. See, and that's what the other property owner did on the other side. Remember, I said there was two sides and there was a piece in between. They always
Mhm.
came together and hunted on, and the guy on the lower side never even talked to the other guy all year round, and then all of a sudden hunting season come, he'd start showing up after work and
Yep.
hanging out and bringing him a case of beer, and that type of thing, sucking in, and oh, let's shoot the guns and get them sighted in and get ready for hunting, and
Yep.
boom, they was like this again.
Yep. See, in that situation, I'd be like, "What do you want, man? If you wanna hunt, just tell me.
Right.
Like, what do you want? Why
Yep.
why are you coming over here acting all
And I
friendly?"
would I would warn him about that every year. I'm like, I guess so and so is just going to show up right before season again, right? He's like, well, yeah, he's the neighbor guy, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, well, he's using you, you
Mhm.
know. So, and he used to put other people, like he and I had been friends for years, hunted for years together. But when I would come over to go hunt, or I would call the night before even and say, hey, I'm thinking about going here. Can I come over and hunt? And he's like, yeah, as long as I know where you're at, no big deal, just in case someone else wants to come around. And that same guy I'm talking about showed up on the opposite side of the field of me the one night. And I guess he called the landowner, my buddy, and was complaining and griping that I was there, that I'm ruining all his hunting. And he only had one night to hunt and all this. I'm like, I told my buddy, I said, I called you last night and we set this up. You knew where I was going. Oh, well, I forgot he was going to be there. Well, how do you forget you're going to be there? And being 300 yards cat a corner from each other in a field does not ruin your archery hunt. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
300 yards apart with bows, that's not ruining anybody's hunt. And they didn't see a deer and I did. So, I mean, what's the difference?
Mhm.
But yeah, it gets me fired up because like it almost ruined our whole friendship over this stuff. And I still feel like he holds it against me. Like I called him 2 weeks later and I said, look, man, come over to the house. Let's talk about this. Let's get this out of the way. I said, because this is just hanging over our heads here. I said, we've been friends too long to throw in the towel over freaking deer hunting, you know. I said, because I can go hunt anywhere. He's like, well, I don't. I stay right here and hunt. I said, I get it. I now get it. You want this to be your own personal space, and you don't want anybody in here. That's okay with me. I so I'm bugging out. So that's what I did. I left. You know, I just like I
You
said, it was on both our ends though. I mean, we both
you triggered him.
well, I mean, there was a lack of communication there.
That usually is.
And like I said, I take partial blame for it. Half of it was my fault. You know, and sometimes stuff happens that way unintentionally. There's no deceit involved or trying no trickery or trying to sneak around or anything. There's none of that that was happening. It's just we didn't communicate clearly.
Well, that may not have been happening with you, but that happens
Yeah.
all the time within I mean, with anything, not just hunting. Hunting is
Right.
just what we're talking about, but there's always that sneaky situation or, I've had I'm gonna tell 2 stories, but I had a situation where I would tell somebody my people I used to hunt with and stuff, I'd tell them where I was going or I found this new spot, and then all of a sudden on public land, all of a sudden I go there, they're in there.
I had that happen before.
That's annoying, man. Go
It
find
is.
your own spot.
It is because I used to live in Pittsburgh and now I live in the country. And when I came up here on the weekends, I would take a guy with me out. And it got to the point where I wasn't seeing any deer on weekends anymore. And I
Mhm.
was wondering why. And I climbed up the tree one day, early morning in the dark. And when I was getting down, going to leave for lunch, I was climbing down and there was all these chink marks. I don't know how to explain all them marks from a tree climbing tree stand in the bark.
Mhm.
And I'm like, somebody's climbing the same exact tree as me. How? You know? How that's just too big of a coincidence. And
Right.
then I went home for the weekend. I came up the next weekend, climbed up a tree towards evening, and at prime time, like an hour before dark, I hear someone climbing down. And I look out in front of me, and about 80 yards out in front of me, here comes a guy down out of a climbing tree stand, coming down off the tree. And I look, and it's this guy's that I'm talking about that was climbing my tree. I found out it was his brother-in-law,
Mhm.
and I yelled to him, I'm like, "Yo, hey, what are you doing? Like, it's prime time." He's like, "Oh, I gotta go to my kid's soccer game or something." I'm like, "Well, you just ruined my hunt. What are you doing in here anyhow?" "Oh, so yeah, your buddy." I don't want to say any names. Your buddy. I'm trying hard. He brought us in. They were brother-in-laws. He brought us in and showed us this spot. I'm like, "Yeah, because I've been bringing them here. Yeah, nice. Now I got
Yep.
four guys hunting in the same spot,
Yeah.
and
Can't tell
now we're not
nobody.
seeing any deer.
Yeah, you can't tell. I don't tell nobody nothing anymore.
That's why I solo hunt now.
I
You know?
rarely post any kind of buck photos. Every now and then I'll post something, but not like I used to. Um, I mean, look what happened with the old farm. That kid, remember that
Yeah.
kid found it and found the
Yep.
property, and he's
Yep.
tracking my social media and
Yep.
all this stuff.
And he started asking about
A
deer we
specific
had
buck.
on,
Yeah,
yeah, on
yeah,
trail camera up there.
yeah. Little kid was trying to play us.
Oh, he wanted to get in there up against
Yep.
you so he can get
Yeah.
that buck.
Yep. Um,
But
but
yeah,
I'll give two stories about this subject. First one is I'm not going to say who it is, but just say family. I had family that had hunting property, and they basically asked me and another family member to hunt it, and we were like, "Yeah, we'll hunt it." He's like, "Okay, well, you got to pay." We're like, "Ok, I mean, I don't care. You want money, that's fine." So we paid. We each paid. I think this was years ago. We each paid $500
oh
to
boy,
hunt. To hunt. I guess it was like 40 some acres, but it was in a prime area. It was really good. Um, so we went down there, and there was this old building that I guess it was like an old shack or something. It was real small, probably like maybe 10, 15 by 15 area, and we fixed it up. We spent our own money. We put the panels in. We built like a little kitchen. We made bunk beds and everything. Well, we put all this money into it. Not a lot, but we fixed it up enough to sleep, basically, because it was like it was an hour away from home. So we did all this work. We put in it. We hung our own tree stands, our own money paid for the stands. We hung them, scouted it, set it up. Well, all of a sudden, we found out that the family member that we were paying to hunt, he was allowing all his buddies to come in and hunt and stay in this place that we fixed,
oh,
and they're hunting our stands. They didn't
Nice.
they weren't paying, but we were paying. You
Oh,
know what I mean? So we
phew.
found that out, and that, I mean, that burned me up.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
guess.
we're paying to hunt. You told us we're the only ones hunting here, but yet you're letting all your buddies in, and they're hunting out of our stands that we hung.
Mhm.
I mean, that's wrong. That's annoying, man.
Yeah.
That's wrong. So I left. I was like, I'm done, and I no longer talk to that family member, and it's been 20 years.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, actually, I did reconnect with him. I told you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened with that.
Right.
Um, Now another situation is years ago. I used to live on a farm. I rented this farmhouse from some people, and I lived there, and it was on 37 acres. Well, originally, before I lived there, me and my buddy used to hunt together all the time. Well, we were driving around one day, knocking on people's doors looking for permission. And years ago, this is how we found all the property. We would just drive around and we'd knock on doors and we'd get
Yeah.
permission property. Used to work great.
Yeah.
So we knocked on this family's door, and we're like, "Hey, look, we're just looking for a place to bow hunt." And we got to know him and everything, and he gave us permission to bow hunt. We hunted this place for probably 3 years. Well, killed a lot of deer off the property. Well, the family, um, they had to go out of town for like 2 years to do some kind of project.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was looking to move, and they had called me and said, "Hey, do you want to live up on the farm? Because there was another house. There was a separate house. Do you want to live in the farmhouse while we're away? We won't charge you no money." So basically, I lived there for 2 years for free. In that time frame, I
Nice.
took care of the property. I had to mow, I did some mowing and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, my buddy was still hunting there, so they all moved back and everything. Well, now since I live there, right? The original agreement was that both of us hunting there, we had to help the landowners if they needed something, whether it was like electrical, or like air conditioning, because my background's, air conditioning, that we would help them fix it, right?
Hmm.
Any
Hmm.
kind of little project that they needed help with, because they were old, they were in their
Right.
80s, that we would help them. I
Okay.
kept always kept my end of the deal. Well, now since I live there, my buddy wouldn't keep up with his deal
Hmm.
because I live there, and in his mindset, oh well, Dave lives there, he can just handle it all.
Oh.
And then a week before the season, my buddy's calling me about hunting there. Hey, I'm coming up hunting. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. And I'm like, dude, like, where you been, man? The landowner's trying to get a hold of you. He's got all kinds of electrical stuff that he needs you to do, and this and this and this and this. And he wouldn't do it
Hmm.
because he's like, well, you live there. Why can't you do it? And that was what he said to me.
Yeah.
And instantly, like that, I was done. I said, dude, I'm done with this. I said, you're gonna have to call the landowner and tell him that you're not coming, or I can do it. I said, I'm not dealing with this. I understand I live here, but our deal is still the deal. I'm not going to do everything for you in order for you to hunt, and then you're going to call me a week before season
Right.
to want to be best friends again. I'm not doing it. So I no longer talk to that person, and it's been 15 years, 12
Mm.
years, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I've had other situations in the past too, but now I'm to the point where, like you said, solo hunting.
Yep.
I don't hunt. I'll hunt with you. I don't. When's the last? Oh, we hunted last year together,
Well,
second
for
year.
Sika, yeah.
But other than that, there's nobody that I hunt with. Maybe Zach. I hunted with Zach a few times, but
Yeah.
um, other than that, I hunt alone.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
back to your point, and we'll wrap this up. Is that um what's more, I told this well, yeah, it was 2 days ago or something. That guy messaged me. I told him, I said, what's more important, hunting or family. You have to choose whether, because his situation was that they had permission to hunt this property. The guy that messaged us, they had
Yeah.
permission, and he was putting in all the work,
Yeah.
but his family member was not. Okay, what do you
Right.
do in that situation? And I get it. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So I basically said, what's more important, family or hunting? You have to make a decision. And the answer should be family, right? So
Should
if
be.
it, yeah, if it's causing you that much grief over this property, then if your relationship is more focused on family, maybe you should just leave. You know what I mean? You have to choose one. Is
Yep.
it worth ruining your a family member
Right.
relationship, or is it more important to shoot a deer? You
Yeah, I
know?
mean, in that situation I was saying about my buddy there, I left and I've never been back.
Hmm.
And that was I don't know how long that's been. Since Logan was 9, he's now 18. So it's been 9 years ago, almost 10 years
Yeah,
that happened. And uh yeah, I just chose. I said
yeah,
either we're not friends anymore or we're friends and I'll go hunt somewhere else. I said, but
right.
we can't do both
Yeah,
because he acted funny if I shot anything. Uh, you know, it just he had all these guidelines and rules and stuff too, and I was like, if it's legal, I can shoot it.
mhm,
Basically, that's how I feel.
yeah.
But
Well,
they had all these limits and rules and stuff, and I was like, well, I don't need all that jazz. I'll just go hunt elsewhere.
everybody's hunting is different. Everybody has different goals. It's hard to
Yeah,
find to align. So if somebody gives you permission to hunt their place, you have to respect their
yeah,
rules.
and that's what I mean. I couldn't abide by their rules, so I just
Yeah,
had to go.
right.
Because one of the things was, you know, don't shoot button box. Don't shoot anything smaller than an 8, and or that was their rule for themselves. They wanted nothing smaller than an 8 point or whatever. You know, they had all these different rules, and one time, and see, for me, hunting was always just feed my family. I didn't have antler restrictions and stuff. If it was legal and it was in front of me and I had a tag, I was sticking that sucker in the freezer, you know. And one time back when I lost my job in the 2008, 2009 depression time or whatever you want to call that slow period, when I was back in college, I had like a limited amount of time to hunt one day, and then I had to get out of the tree and go to school. And the neighbor's property, they put on a drive and they shoot all these deer across the valley, and they come over to his side, and there I was in a tree stand, and this deer went through a shooting lane and I didn't get a chance at it. And so I climbed down out of the tree. I had to get down anyhow. I climbed down out of the tree and I ran up over the hilltop and I caught this deer. It was on the top of a ridge, and the deer stopped at the top of the ridge and was looking down through an open field, deciding which way to go. Something was just chasing me. Which way do I go? Well, it was facing straight away from me. It never knew I was there. I snuck up on it, put the crosshairs on the back of its head, and pulled the trigger. And I had a slug gun that day, so of course it dropped like a ton of bricks. I'm like, okay, cool. I walk over. Here it was a button buck. Well, now I'm thinking I messed up, but how could you tell? It was doe season, facing away from me. I couldn't see what it was. Thought it was a doe. So I drag it down to the truck, load it in the truck as quick as I can, and I'm getting ready to blast off because I got to get to school. And they show up. Hey man, you got one? Yeah, let's check it out. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta go. Oh, let's look real quick. And they flip it over, and here it's a button buck. Now they're giving me all kind of grief, because oh man, that's our bucks. You're killing the bucks. We told you don't shoot one of them. I'm like, how was I to know? It was facing the wrong way, you know.
Hmm.
And you could literally see the entrance and exit wound. I shot it straight away in the back of the head. So yeah, they
Well,
gave me all kind of grief over it because they had all these. you know, all these stupid rules and things, and they looked down on that, and they didn't want me, they was threatening to not have me hunt there anymore and all this stuff. And I'm like, and back then I was ready to give up, throw in the towel, because it just wasn't worth it. I just wanted to feed the family.
Yeah. Well, back to what you said earlier, I meant to say it, is that back years ago, I hunted with a lot of family and friends, and I kind of I didn't give up on certain things, but I kept it with family for the camaraderie, like you said, and everything.
Yeah,
But
right.
since I've left that section, that
That
portion
group.
of my life,
Yeah.
my hunting has went up.
Yes.
My bucks have went up in
Yes.
quality,
Isn't that
and
something?
it's the same thing. And
And
I
that's why I can't agree with these hunt clubs and stuff.
yeah, so I was in
I
hunt
can't
clubs.
agree on that.
I was in hunt clubs. Did all these things where you had to go to like bull roasts and fundraisers for to pay for the I mean I've done all that and
Yeah.
I hated it. But I did it because I was with family and I tried to do the camaraderie thing and everything.
Yeah.
But since then,
It just seems to
my
never work.
it never works. My
And
hunting has went up. I enjoy hunting more.
yep.
I'm less stressed because I don't
Yep.
have to deal with somebody.
No drama.
No drama, there's no anything, and, I'll hunt with you when once or twice a year or something, and
And there's a little bit of drama there.
yeah, a little bit of drama there because you killed my dream.
Stop it.
Um, but yeah, that's it. I mean, so I guess anybody listening, you have to make a choice. What's more important, family or hunting? Maybe like you did, you can still remain friends, but just separate yourselves
Yeah.
from hunting,
Had to.
or you just gotta figure it out. What's
Well,
more important?
here's the key, guys. Keep your circle small
Mhm.
and get trustworthy, honest people that you can trust if you're going to do the friendship thing. And I'm not saying I didn't trust those other guys, but once something happens, then the question of trust comes in, you know, and accusations, you know, people start getting paranoid, that type of thing. That's no good for your friendship. So try to get your closest people to you. If it is a family member, great. If not, look at me and Dave. We're 2 states away from each other, or we're neighboring states, I should say. But we can hunt together. There's no problems. But when I used to hunt with family, there was always drama or something, or close friends or something. Someone sneaking in after I would go home for the weekend and they're hunting my spot. Why?
Mhm.
I don't need that distrust.
Yep.
So now keeping that small, like Dave said, he and I have hunted together, but I have hunted with nobody besides Dave in the last 5 years, I think.
Mhm.
But
Well, look at
but
that.
I found though that, like you said, the quality has gone way up when you do your own homework, do your own legwork,
Mhm.
and and you don't have any drama, and it's all on you. You you swim or drown.
Well, look, that velvet buck I killed public land.
Hmm.
That velvet buck. We got back to the parking lot, and everybody's like, "Hey, man, wow, really, nice buck. Where'd you shoot it at?" Well, down that way.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
where at? Where at? What part of the woods?
Right.
That type of stuff. Like, go find your own spot. Why do
Yeah.
you want to know where I killed it? The deer's already dead.
Yeah, that one's dead.
It's dead, and they wouldn't stop asking me.
Right.
Kept hammering, hammering. So you just got to pick and choose your battles. But
Well, went over on the mountain after I killed a couple bears. The place is polluted with hunters now, bear
mhm,
hunters.
word
Oh
gets
yeah,
out
we
fast.
heard we heard there was a couple good ones killed here. Yeah, I
Yep,
killed them, and
yep.
they're gone.
Word travels fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. So keep
All right.
keep your circle small, folks,
Yep.
and get some trustworthy people around you.
Podcast 82. Later.